The world of relationships, especially those marked by profound challenges, often presents us with narratives that defy easy categorization. We crave neat endings, clear villains, and heroes who rise unequivocally. But life and love are rarely so simple. Today we delve into a story that peels back the layers of betrayal, forgiveness, and the insidious nature of secrets. A story that asks us to confront the very limits of our understanding of trust and redemption. This isn't just a tale of infidelity. It's an exploration of the intricate dance between vulnerability and deception, the monumental effort required to rebuild, and the devastating impact when the very ground you thought you were standing on shifts beneath your feet, revealing a chasm far deeper than you could have ever imagined. Imagine Chloe and Liam. Their love story, to anyone looking in, was a testament to enduring connection. They met in college, a whirlwind of shared dreams and late-night conversations that seamlessly transitioned into a life built on mutual respect and an undeniable, almost palpable affection. Their home, a cozy bungalow nestled in a tree-lined street, was filled with the quiet hum of domesticity and the occasional bursts of laughter. They had weathered the usual storms of life, career anxieties, family health scares, the minor squabbles that every couple navigates, emerging stronger, or so it seemed, each time. Chloe, a talented graphic designer, found solace in her creative pursuits, while Liam, an ambitious software engineer, was driven by a desire to provide a secure future for them both. They were, in essence, a team, two halves of a seemingly perfect whole. Their bond forged over a decade of shared experiences, whispered confessions, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone truly saw and understood you. Then came the seismic shock, the kind of event that doesn't just crack the foundation, but shatters it into a million irreparable pieces: the discovery of Liam's affair. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic confrontation, but a slow, agonizing realization, a series of breadcrumbs leading Chloe down a path she never wanted to traverse. A text message left carelessly open on his phone, a fleeting scent of a different perfume on his clothes, the late nights that stretched into early mornings with increasingly flimsy excuses. Each piece of evidence, initially dismissed as paranoia, slowly coalesced into an undeniable truth. The moment of confrontation was a blur of raw emotion. Chloe, her voice trembling, her heart a drumbeat of terror and rage, laid out her suspicions. Liam, initially defensive, then crumbled, his confession a torrent of shame and regret. He had cheated, not once, but for months, with a colleague. The world as Chloe knew it evaporated in that instant. The trust, the intimacy, the shared future, all reduced to ash. The aftermath was a desolate landscape. Days blurred into weeks of tears, anger, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Chloe felt as though a vital organ had been ripped from her body, leaving a gaping, bleeding wound. Every memory, every shared joke, every tender touch was replayed through the lens of this new, horrifying reality. Was it all a lie? Was he ever truly hers? The questions gnawed at her relentlessly. Liam, for his part, seemed genuinely remorseful. He begged for her forgiveness, swore it was a colossal mistake, a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment brought on by stress, and a fleeting sense of unhappiness he couldn't articulate. He promised to do whatever it took to earn back her trust, to rebuild what he had so carelessly destroyed. He attended therapy, individual and then couples. He left his job, severing all ties with the other woman. He became, in every observable way, the picture of a man desperate for a second chance. This is where the narrative diverges. Many would say, walk away, he betrayed you, he doesn't deserve you. And for many that would be the correct, the necessary path. But love, especially a love that has matured over a decade, is not easily extinguished. It's a complex tapestry woven with threads of history, shared dreams, mutual vulnerabilities, and an almost instinctive desire for connection. Chloe, despite the searing pain, found herself wrestling with a profound internal conflict. The woman who had been her partner, her confidant, her best friend, was still there beneath the layers of deceit. She saw the genuine anguish in his eyes, the palpable regret in every gesture. She remembered the good times, the unwavering support, the deep laughter they shared. The idea of erasing all of that, of simply walking away from a decade of her life, felt like tearing herself in two.
The decision to forgive is not a singular event. It's a grueling, arduous process, a marathon of emotional labor. It involves confronting the pain, acknowledging the hurt, and then, painstakingly, trying to reimagine a future that once seemed irrevocably broken. For Chloe, it meant setting boundaries, demanding transparency, and requiring consistent, undeniable effort from Liam. He had to earn it every single day. And he did. He showed up. He listened. He endured her anger, her sadness, her fear without defensiveness. He became an open book, sharing his calendar, his phone, his thoughts. He made amends with her family and friends, some of whom were understandably skeptical, even hostile. He recommitted to therapy, delving deeper into the why of his actions, seeking to understand the vulnerabilities that led him astray. Months turned into a year, then two. The raw wounds began to scab over, then slowly, miraculously, to heal. The laughter returned to their home, softer at first, then growing in confidence. They started date nights again, cooking together, taking weekend trips. They talked more deeply than ever before, exploring not just the mechanics of the affair, but the underlying dynamics of their relationship, the unspoken needs, the subtle drifts. Chloe, through her own therapy, worked on reclaiming her sense of self, rebuilding her trust not just in Liam, but in her own judgment. She learned about boundaries, about self-worth, about the courage it takes to not just forgive another, but to forgive herself for the pain she endured and for the choices she made. Their love story, once a testament to seamless connection, was now a testament to resilience, to the possibility of growth even after profound devastation. They were, in many ways, a stronger couple, more intentional, more communicative, their bond forged anew in the crucible of shared pain and painstaking repair. They had stared into the abyss and together had found their way back to the light. They even started tentatively talking about the future again, maybe a bigger house, perhaps finally starting the family they had always dreamed of. Hope, fragile but persistent, had returned. But this is where our story takes a turn, a dark, unexpected twist that challenges the very notion of redemption and the depth of human deception. Because what Chloe didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known during those agonizing months of rebuilding, during those tender moments of tentative reunion, was that Liam had a secret far more insidious, far more destructive than the affair itself. The affair, it turned out, was merely a symptom, a visible crack in a facade that concealed a much grander, more perilous deception. The first hint came subtly, almost imperceptibly. A strange, evasive response from Liam when Chloe casually mentioned their joint savings account. A flicker of something in his eyes, a momentary tension in his posture, dismissed at the time as residual anxiety from the past. Then a few weeks later, a letter arrived, addressed to Liam, from a law firm she didn't recognize. He intercepted it quickly, offering a vague explanation about a work-related dispute. Chloe, still working diligently on rebuilding trust, tried to quell the familiar pang of distrust. She reminded herself of all his efforts, all his transparency. She told herself she was being paranoid, falling back into old patterns of distrust. But the seeds were sown. The secret began to unravel, not with a bang, but with a slow, chilling creep. One evening, as Chloe was paying bills online, she noticed a substantial discrepancy in their bank statements. Large sums of money, far beyond their usual expenses, were missing. Her heart began to pound with a sickening dread. She confronted Liam, her voice laced with a fear that was disturbingly familiar. He stammered, his usual articulateness replaced by a panicked incoherence. He confessed, in halting, broken sentences, that he had been gambling. Not just casual bets, but a severe, escalating addiction that had started years ago, even before the affair. He had lost a significant portion of their savings, meticulously covering his tracks, creating fake spreadsheets, diverting funds. The affair, he now admitted, had been a desperate attempt to escape the crushing weight of his addiction, a distraction from the financial ruin he was systematically bringing upon them both.
This revelation was a betrayal of an entirely different magnitude. The affair had been a blow to her heart, her sense of self-worth. This, however, was a betrayal of their entire shared future, their financial security, their ability to pursue their dreams. It wasn't just about his fidelity, it was about his integrity, his fundamental honesty, his capacity for deep, sustained deception. The forgiveness she had so painstakingly granted for the affair now felt cheapened, a naive gesture in the face of a much darker truth. She hadn't forgiven a man who made a mistake. She had forgiven a man who was living a double life, a man who had systematically plundered their joint resources while professing remorse for a different, albeit related, transgression. The initial shock was quickly replaced by a cold, searing anger. How could he? How could he have watched her suffer, seen her pour her heart and soul into rebuilding their relationship, all while knowing this colossal, devastating secret loomed beneath the surface? Every tear she had shed, every difficult conversation, every step forward they had taken now felt tainted, a performance choreographed by his deceit. The betrayal wasn't just the gambling, it was the active, deliberate concealment of it, the allowing her to believe they were on a path to genuine healing, when in fact they were hurtling towards financial catastrophe. The weeks that followed were a maelstrom of legal consultations, financial investigations, and agonizing conversations. Chloe discovered the true extent of the losses, not just a portion of their savings, but almost all of it. Their dream of a bigger house, of starting a family, was not just delayed, it was shattered. They were in debt, facing potential bankruptcy, all because of Liam's hidden addiction and his pathological need to conceal it. The redemption she thought they had achieved now felt like a cruel illusion. How could you truly redeem a relationship when the very foundation of trust had been so thoroughly, so systematically eroded, not once, but twice, each time revealing a deeper layer of deception? This wasn't just about forgiving a transgression. It was about forgiving a fundamental flaw in character, a deep-seated pathology that manifested in a web of lies. Liam, in his renewed plea for forgiveness, explained the crushing grip of addiction, the shame, the fear, the desperate attempts to win back the money, which only led to deeper losses. He claimed he had tried to stop, that he was terrified of telling her, fearing he would lose her completely. He swore he was now ready to face his addiction head-on, to commit to rigorous therapy, to surrender control of their finances entirely. But Chloe was no longer the same woman who had grappled with the initial betrayal. She was older, wiser, and infinitely more guarded. Her capacity for blind trust had been decimated. The forgiveness she had extended before had been an act of monumental courage and love. To offer it again in the face of such profound, systemic deception felt like an act of self-destruction. She loved him, or at least she loved the man she thought he was, the man she had spent a decade building a life with, the man she had painstakingly tried to rebuild a future with. But the man standing before her now was a stranger, a master of deception, a vessel of hidden depths she no longer had the courage to explore. The question of redemption in this context reaches its zenith. It's not just the external challenges, but the internal ones. The challenge of discerning truth from fiction, of trusting your own instincts, of protecting your own well-being when the person you love has proven themselves to be a master of manipulation. Chloe found herself in a deeply agonizing dilemma. To walk away meant severing a decade-long bond, confronting a future alone, and rebuilding her life from scratch, financially and emotionally. To stay meant living with a constant undercurrent of suspicion, forever questioning every word, every gesture, every promise. It meant living with a life where the specter of hidden truths would always loom, threatening to shatter their peace at any given moment.
She sought counsel from trusted friends, family, and therapists, each offering perspectives colored by their own experiences and values. Some urged her to leave, emphasizing the importance of self-preservation and the clear pattern of deceit. Others, while acknowledging the gravity of the betrayal, spoke of the power of true love, the possibility of profound change, and the potential for a deeper, more resilient bond if Liam could genuinely commit to recovery. The advice, though well-intentioned, only highlighted the deeply personal nature of her decision. There was no right or wrong answer, only a path she had to forge for herself. Chloe spent weeks in a state of quiet contemplation, a profound internal reckoning. She revisited every memory, every conversation, every interaction since the affair, searching for clues she had missed, for signs of the deeper deception. She saw how his stress during the affair period now made chilling sense in the context of his gambling addiction. She understood the desperation behind his fervent pleas for forgiveness for the affair. It was a diversion, a means to keep her from digging deeper, from discovering the true extent of his deceit. The entire narrative of their reconciliation felt like a meticulously crafted stage play designed to distract her from the real drama unfolding backstage. The pain of this second betrayal was different. It wasn't the searing, immediate agony of infidelity, but a colder, more pervasive ache. It was the pain of realizing she had been fooled, not once, but twice. It was the grief for the loss of her innocence, her belief in fundamental goodness, her capacity for unconditional trust. It was the profound disappointment in a person she had loved and championed, a person she had invested her entire future in. Liam, meanwhile, was genuinely terrified. The revelation of his gambling addiction had shattered not just Chloe's world, but his own. He was forced to confront the full extent of his disease, the years of denial, the elaborate web of lies he had constructed. He enrolled in an intensive addiction recovery program, attended daily meetings, and began the arduous process of untangling the psychological roots of his compulsion. He was, for the first time, truly honest with himself and with Chloe, laying bare his shame, his fear, his deeply ingrained patterns of self-sabotage. He offered to sign over all assets, to take on all the debt himself, to do whatever it took to prove his sincerity, to begin the long, slow climb back from the abyss he had created. But sincerity, Chloe knew, was no longer enough. Sincerity had been present during his initial pleas for forgiveness for the affair. What was needed now was a complete overhaul of his character, a fundamental shift in his moral compass, a proven, sustained commitment to radical honesty. And Chloe had to ask herself, was she willing to gamble her entire future on the slim hope that this time, his transformation would be real? The path of redemption, when faced with such deep-seated deception, is not a straight line. It's a winding, treacherous ascent, fraught with setbacks and the constant threat of relapse. For Liam, it meant years of therapy, financial transparency,
and a lifelong commitment to managing his addiction. For Chloe, it meant an even more challenging journey. The journey of deciding whether she could ever truly trust again, whether she could ever truly feel safe, whether the love they once shared could survive such a catastrophic breach of faith. In the end, Chloe made a decision that was both heartbreaking and empowering. She recognized that Liam's journey of redemption was his own to undertake. She could not and should not be the sole arbiter or the primary support system for his recovery. Her own healing, her own future, demanded that she prioritize herself. She chose not to walk away from Liam entirely, but to create a significant, necessary distance. They separated, not with anger, but with a profound sadness. She made it clear that while she wished him well in his recovery, she could not, at this moment, continue to build a life with a person whose core integrity she could no longer rely on. She acknowledged the love they once shared, the good years, the genuine efforts he had made after the affair. But the secret, the deeper, more pervasive deception had irrevocably altered the landscape of their relationship. The capacity for such profound, multi-layered betrayal, she realized, stemmed from a place within him that she could not heal, could not fix, and ultimately could not trust. Her forgiveness for the affair had been a gift of love and hope. His secret had been a poison that had contaminated that gift, turning hope into cynicism and love into a weary resignation.
Chloe's redemption in this story was not about saving the relationship, but about saving herself. It was about recognizing her own worth, her own boundaries, and her right to a future built on genuine trust and unwavering honesty. She began the arduous process of rebuilding her life, financially and emotionally, independently. She sold the bungalow, cleared their joint debts, and started fresh, carrying the scars of her experience, but also the profound wisdom gained from navigating such treacherous emotional terrain. She learned that forgiveness does not always equate to reconciliation, and that true redemption often requires a radical act of self-preservation. Liam continued his recovery journey, facing the consequences of his actions, not just with Chloe, but with his career and his own self-respect. He understood, finally, the profound damage he had wrought not just through his infidelity, but through the systematic deception that had underpinned so much of his life. His path to redemption would be a solitary one, a lifelong commitment to rebuilding his integrity, one truthful step at a time. Whether he would ever truly achieve it, whether he would ever truly find peace, remained an open question. This story of he cheated on her, she forgave him, but he had a secret, is a stark reminder that challenging relationships often hide deeper complexities. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the betrayal we see on the surface is merely a distraction from a much more fundamental deception lurking beneath. It teaches us that forgiveness is a powerful, transformative act, but it is not a magic wand that erases all past wrongs or guarantees future fidelity. True redemption requires a complete overhaul of character, a profound commitment to honesty, and a willingness to confront the deepest, darkest corners of one's own being. And for those who have been betrayed, it teaches us the ultimate act of redemption, the courage to choose ourselves, to protect our peace, and to rebuild our lives on a foundation of unshakable truth, even if it means walking away from a love that once promised forever. If you found this deep dive into the complexities of challenging relationships and the intricate dance of betrayal and redemption insightful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more explorations into the human heart and the difficult choices we face in love and life.
Your support helps us continue to bring these important conversations to light.